Hi everybody, it's Richard here and welcome to another video. Now in this one I'm going to have a go at ranking the Rolling Stones albums. There's 23 of them in total. I'm not going to include any live albums because there's about 6 million of those in total. I'm not going to include any compilations because there's about 12 million of those in total. And of the early 60s albums, I'm going to include the UK editions, not the US ones. So for example, there will be no December's Children or no Rolling Stones Now or 12 by 5 or England's Newest Hitmakers or whatever they call it. So it'll be just the UK editions from 23 down to my favourite, my number one favourite. Now with all of these rankings, these are just my own personal choices. So there may be a couple of eyebrows raised with some of them. But as I say, they're my choices and it's what I like and what I dislike. So, okay, starting off with number 23 and an album that I have never gelled with, and it's quite recent. I think it's 2015. And my number 23 is Blue and Lonesome. This is a covers album of blues songs, and I find it quite tedious, to be quite honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of the blues, I have to admit that. I don't mind the odd song here and there, but to get a full album, to me it all just sounds the same. And with this, it's absolutely perfectly recorded, brilliantly recorded, but that's a problem because the blues is supposed to be quite dirty and gritty and you know what I mean. And I think if I was to listen to a blues album, I would like something recorded in the 1950s or 40s or something like that there over this. So again, I'm not keen at all, and there's nothing on this album that sticks out. So that's my number 23. Okay, number 22, and we'll go on to the vinyl. There are a few CDs, I have to admit here, because I don't have all the Stone stuff on vinyl. Number 23 is that's number 22, sorry, 1980s Emotional Rescue. This has very little on it that's good as well. The title track, Emotional Rescue, is not a bad song, but it goes on for far too long. It's over 5.5 minutes and it gets tedious after about 3. She's So Cold I do like, even though it's a very standardy type Stone song. And the track Dance, the first song off side 1, I think is quite good. The rest of this, no, I'm not too keen at all. I do like the cover though, I think it's a rather cool cover, but the album itself I think is extremely weak. Okay, number 21, and most people's choice for the worst ever, is Dirty Work from 1986. I think really, if you think about it, the alarm bells were ringing whenever they released a cover version as a first single from the album, which for the Stones is really unheard of from the 60s onwards, or the mid 60s onwards. But Harlem Shuffle's not bad here. It's not a bad song. The song Too Rude is another cover of that Keith sings, and it's a reggae song, and it's probably regarded as one of their worst ever songs, but I quite like it, so do I. Think it's quite amusing. One Hit to the Body was the second single, did nothing, but again it starts off really well, but you lose interest about 2 minutes in. But this is probably their most 80s sounding album. Now things like what is it called, Dirty Work, and things like Back to Zero, they do have an 80s feel about it. Winning Ugly, I think, is the opening song on side 2, and it's almost got that Mark King slap bass to it, and it does actually put it bang in the middle of the 80s, and the Stones aren't really like that. Most of the Stones records are timeless, even though you could say they're very similar, but they're not dated as such. This one is dated, but again, I don't mind it. It's not great, but it's still better than Emotional Rescue, so that's my number 21. Number 20, and it's a CD, and this is from 1987, and this is Bridges to Babylon. Now, has anybody seen My Baby? Is the hit off this. This again is well recorded, perfectly played. The songs are actually quite good, they're not too bad, but it's too clean, it's too sterile. It almost feels as if it's been sanitized, and to be quite honest with you, it gets a little bit boring after a while. Didn't mean it. What's the song? I can hardly read these things here again. You didn't have to mean it is another reggae cover that Keith does. I think it's really good. And Thief in the Night is a really good song which Keith does. So he really does. He's the star of this show, to be quite honest with you. Saint of Me and Out of Control are too long. They're not bad. They were singles, but they're a little bit tedious. And the first song, Flip of the Switch, is actually quite good. But again, as I say, it is too clean. It's too well produced. And that's why it gets my number 20. Okay. Number 19 from 1989 is Steel Wheels. This is slightly better. The hit single off this, Mixed Emotions, was quite a big hit in America. It did okay over here, not brilliant. But the second single, Rockin' a Hard Place, is a standardist Stone song as you'll ever get, which is a little bit disappointing. Sad 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 is a really good rockin' opener, but the highlights of this album come with the last 3 songs on side 2. Continental Drift has got a very eastern feel to it, and it's almost like a groove, and I think it's really, really good. Break the Spell is like a type of psycho rockabilly number, which is excellent. And then we have Slipping Away, the Keith Richards song, which is possibly the best song he's ever done with the Stones. Possibly. There's another one, another contender, which you'll hear about later. But yeah, it's not a bad album, but again, it's quite low down. Number 19. Okay, number 18 for me, and people may be surprised, but it's because, as I say, I'm not really a big blues fan. I'm going with their debut from '64. Not a big blues fan, but my favourite song off this is a slow blues number called Honest I Do. They do a good version of Chuck Berry's Carol, but in general, it's not a bad album. It's very raw. They haven't actually found their sound, I don't think, yet. Route 66 is not bad, as is Little by Little and Walking the Dog. But I always find with the classic bands from the 60s, like the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks and the Who, their first albums weren't that great. And I'm actually including Please Please Me in that as well, because I don't rate it that highly either. But yeah, it's okay. It's not too bad, but it gets my number 18. And number 17, which is slightly better, is Rolling Stones number 2 from 1965. They've actually got a few songs on here that they wrote themselves, which they're okay. They're not brilliant. Grown Up Wrong is one of them. Off the Hook, I believe, is another one. The hit off this in America was Time Is On My Side. It's not a bad song, but there's a couple of good songs. They do a good version of You Can't Catch Me, which is the Chuck Berry song. I Can't Be Satisfied with the Slide Guitar is actually really good. And a decent version of Under the Boardwalk. So it's an improvement on the first, but it's still not fantastic. So that's the number 17 is Rolling Stones number 2. Okay, so going on to number 16, and this may be a surprise, I'm going to put Some Girls from 1978. The hit single off this is Miss You. The second hit single off this is Respectable, which is like an ode to the punk era. I think Lies were doing a better ode to the punk era, The very best song off this was a single in America called Beast of Burden, which is the best song by a mile. The rest of this is okay. Shattered is not a bad song. Faraway Eyes a lot of people love, but I just can't stand Jagger's mock Southern American voice. It annoys me, and he does it so many times on different albums. It gets on my nerves. But songs like When the Whip Comes Down and Some Girls, they're not great at all. And Before They Make Me Run's not a brilliant Keith song either. But generally it's an okay album, but a lot of people rate this really highly and I just don't understand why. So that's number 16. Number 15, I think it's slightly better, and this is from 76. This is the album before it, Black and Blue. This is a good funky album with songs like Hey Negrita and Hot Stuff. The single off this is Full to Cry, which can be extremely boring or extremely wonderful depending on your frame of mind. There's a reggae version of Cherry O Baby which I quite like. I love the song Crazy Mama. I think it's one of the Stones' best rockers. But generally I like the whole of this album apart from one song, Melody with Billy Preston, which I think is like a very lazy jazz song which just goes on forever. Melody Motel's a good song, especially when Keith's vocals come in at the end of each verse, which I think is very, very good and very effective. So that's my number 15. Number 14 is CD Time again, and this is from 2005, and this is A Bigger Bang. This is their last album of original material. This has got some really good songs. It is sanitized just like Bridges to Babylon, but the songs are much stronger and I really do enjoy this. Streets of Love's brilliant. Rain Fall Down I think is excellent. It's got a bit of a U2 guitar-y type vibe to it. 80s U2, not like the 90s U2. Let Me Down Slow is great. Rough Justice, the opener's a great rocker as well. And again, Keith's song Biggest Mistake is actually very, very good. I enjoyed it. I'd be playing this in the car. In fact, I had to reacquaint myself with some of these later albums because I'd forgotten exactly what they were like. But it's sanitized, as I say, but the songs are strong, and that's why it gets my number 14. Okay, number 13, another CD, and this is probably their best post-1990 album. This is Voodoo Lounge. This is really good. Excellent song called Love Is Strong to start with. Hit single. The song New Faces has got a vibe like Lady Jane from Aftermath, which is very, very good. What's the other one called? The Worst is like a very, very, very slowed down country song that Keith sings, which I absolutely adore. Sparks Will Fly is great. This is full of very good songs. The only thing I'll say about this, and I'll take in The Bigger Bang and Bridges to Babylon, I seem to sort of group those three together. They're CD age albums, which means they're a little too long. Maybe a little too many tracks, and each track's a bit long in length. But yeah, this was a big hit. This got the number 1 in the albums charts, and I enjoyed this. This is good. This is the first album after Bill Wyman left. So that's Voodoo Lounge. Okay, so where are we at now? Number 12. And I'm going to go with Aftermath from 1966. This is half a good album. This is their first album of all self-written material, and it shows because there's quite a bit of filler on this. But when it's good, it's really good. The highlights are Mother's Little Helper, Under My Thumb, Lady Jane, awesome, Out of Time, High and Dry, and there's a song called I Am Waiting, which sounds as if it's not great, it's not bad, but it actually is a very good song. Lindsey Buckingham did a fantastic version of it on his Under the Skin album from, I think it was 2006. So there is meats of a good song there, but we do have filler. For example, Don't You Bother Me, It's Not Easy, Take It or Leave It, Think. They're not good good songs at all. And I think they were struggling to actually get a full album at this stage, because beforehand they were only contributing about 3 songs of their own to an album full of covers. But fair play to them, they went for it. And again, it's not bad. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's actually quite bad. But I still like it. This is actually the first studio Stones album I bought back in 1982. Okay, so number 11, which is slightly better, is the one before it, and that's Out of Our Heads. Now, the 3 songs that they actually wrote here were I'm Free, Gotta Get Away, and Heart of Stone, and they were 3 of the best LP tracks that they'd done up to that time. Better than anything from their first 2 albums. They also did the Under Assistant West Coast Promotion Man, which is a Nanker Fledge song, which is a pseudonym for the whole lot of them together, so it's more or less a group composition. But the cover versions here are excellent. She Said Yeah is absolutely rocking. And Paul McCartney actually does that on his Run Devil Run album, and he copies exactly the same as the way the Stones did it. Mercy Mercy is great, and Jeff Lynne did that excuse me, on his Old Wave album. That's How Strong My Love is my favourite Stones cover. I'm not too sure who actually wrote that, Jameson, whoever that is. Oh Baby We've Got a Good Thing Going is great, and Good Times by Sam Cooke just sounds like Sam Cooke actually. But yeah, I really enjoyed this album, and it's by far the best of what I call the covers albums. So that there's Out of Our Heads at number 11. Now you're probably saying to yourself, hold on a minute, he's forgotten one. No, I haven't. That's what I say, everybody has their own choices, and my number 10 is Tattoo You from 1981. Side 1's a wee bit patchy. Start Me Up's great, Slave's great, Black Limousine's not bad, the rest of it is But side 2 of this is absolutely excellent. Side 1's the rockers, side 2 would be the slower songs. We have things like Tops, Heaven, Worried About You, and the beautiful, beautiful Waiting on a Friend. Now, the thing about this album, this is an album of outtakes. They didn't have an album after Emotional Rescue. And I think it was their engineer went through a lot of their old outtakes, and they needed an album to tour with. So he suggested record a lot of those old songs. And you have things like Tops is from the Goat's Head Soup sessions. There's quite a bit from the Emotional Rescue sessions, which is on side 1, which shows that it's not great. You have some from Black and Blue, and you've got some from Some Girls. For example, Start Me Up was originally a reggae number from Some Girls, but yeah, it's a good album, especially side 2, and again, I love that cover, and I love the back cover of Keith as well. I think the reason why they only had the 2 of them there was because they took from different sessions. There was a heck of a lot of different musicians. So Mick Taylor actually features on this, even though he's no longer a Stone. Okay, number 9, and I brought this up in a previous video about being overrated, is Let It Bleed. Yeah, it's got Give Me Shelter, fantastic. Monkey Man, fantastic. Love and Vain, blues song, fantastic. The rest of it is not great. It's a bit tedious for me. You can't always get what you want, it's too long. As is Midnight Rambler, which is laborious, it really is. Country Hunk is a waste of space. Why not just put the single in? I know they didn't put singles in the 60s on their albums, but that's a waste of a track. You got the Silver's not too bad, and Love and Me's not too bad. But on the strength of those first 3 songs, Give Me Shelter, Monkey Man and Love and Vain, this gets up to number 9. Okay, this is the big, big, big eyebrow raiser, and my number 8 is Undercover from 1983. I love this album. Undercover of the Night is their best song of the 80s. She Was Hot, I think, is a pretty catchy song with a fantastic video. Tacky but fantastic. Feel On Baby is a groove which I really, really like. Too Much Blood has got those horns in it. It's just wonderful. You've got standard Stones rockers like Too Tough and It Must Be Hell, but they're really good. They're strong Stones rockers. Tie You Up is really funky as well, and All the Way Down is a catchy song. I love this album. I really love it. Some people don't like the cover of it. I don't think there's anything too much from. Okay, you get an arse, big deal. But there's nothing showing. I just think it's a cool cover, a cool album, and that's my number 8 from 1983, Undercover. And I love Undercover the Night. I can't stress that enough. And a fantastic video, the uncensored video. Okay, number 7 from 1974, and we have It's Only Rock and Roll. The hit single is It's Only Rock and Roll, and it's rumoured that David Bowie provided backing vocals on that. I'm not too sure if it's true or not. Good opener with If You Can't Rock Me. It's got Dance Little Sister, which is one of the most one-dimensional songs I've ever heard. It's almost one note the whole way through, but it works, and it actually managed to get on Made in the Shade. They do a good version of The Temptations' Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which was a single in the States. But the two highlights for me off this album are the two closers. Time Waits for No One with that swirling Mick Taylor guitar, and the Fingerprint File, which is something the Stones had never done. I don't know how even to describe it. It just has to be heard to be appreciated, and I do really, really like that cover. I really love that cover. So that's the Stones. Of course it's the Stones. It's Only Rock and Roll, and that's number 7. Okay, number 6 from 1967 is Between the Buttons. This is their second album of fully that they completely wrote themselves. No singles off this. There was 2 in the American version. The American version had Let's Spend the Night Together and Ruby Tuesday. This doesn't. But Yesterday's Papers, I think, is a really good opener. Backstreet Girls' beautiful song. Please Go Home with the Bo Diddley type riff is great. A couple of closers which remind me of the Kinks are Something Happened to Me Yesterday and Cool Calm Collected, which are both very good songs. But the highlight of this is Who's Been Sleeping Here, which is a very Bob Dylan-esque song, and I think it's just fantastic. I love it. I think it's a really, really good listen. Like my obsession, I could play that over and over again. So it doesn't get a lot of love, this album, but I think it's really, really good, and I guess my number 6. Number 5, and this one has been reappraised in recent times. This one got slated at the time, and this is their Satanic Majesties Request. She's a Rainbow, everybody loves. 2000 Light Years from Home, everybody should love. 2000 Man, I think is great, and even Bill Wyman's In Another Land. Now, this could have been improved, because the Sing This All Together, See What Happens is like a psychedelic jam at the end of side 1. If We Love You had been on there, oh boy, this would have been even higher. The Lantern is a great song, as is Gumper, which has got the sitar on it. No, I think this is a really good. Okay, it's compared a lot to Sgt. Pepper. It sounds nothing like Sgt. Pepper, and they shouldn't really be compared. I think we only do that because the covers are colourful. So that's my number 5. Number 4 is from 1972, and that's Exile and Main Street double album. Yeah, this should have been a single album. I think there's a bit of filler on here, to be quite honest with you, but when it's good, it's really good. Rocks Off, contender for one of their best ever songs. Tumbling Dice, great single. Happy is the song I was referring to earlier on about being Keith Richards' best. Sweet Virginia, he does his Southern American accent, but he gets away with it this time. Torn and Fray's good song. Turd on the Run is good. Rip This Joint. But there's a few songs I'm not too keen on, like Casino Boogie and what's the other one called inside one? Can't remember the name of it, and there's no track listing here. Yeah, it's a good album, but it could have been cut down to a single album. And it's a very weird, very trebly production on this, which I think adds to the charm, to be quite honest with you. So I hope they'd never muck up, yeah, or mess about with it, sorry. But yeah, so that's my number 4, is Exile on Main Street. This is a very long video, by the way, folks, sorry about that. Number 3, Beggars Banquet. This is the proper cover and none of that toilet rubbish. Sympathy for the Devil, brilliant. Street Fighting Man, brilliant. Jigsaw Puzzle, brilliant. Stray Cat Blues, brilliant. Salt of the Earth, brilliant. Factory Girl, brilliant. Prodigal Son, brilliant. The only one I'm not too keen on here is Dear Doctor, because guess what? He does his mock accent again. But a very, very strong album from 1968. The single around the time of Jumpin' Jack Flash, so yeah, great album, and that's my number 3. Number 2 from 71, and it does have the zipper, and I think it's still working. Sticky Fingers, Brown Sugar was the hit off this. Can You Hear Me Knocking, I absolutely love. It's got a great Stones riff, and then it goes into this like psychedelic instrumental. Midnight Mile is a great song. Bitch is great. Wild Horses, everybody knows. I Got the Blues is one of their better blues numbers. Yeah, I love this. Dead Flowers is a good song, but guess what? He does his mock accent again, which really does annoy me, because it taints the album a little bit for me, but it's still a fantastic album and everybody should own this. So that's Sticky Fingers, number 2. My number 1, I think I've mentioned this before, from 1973, and it's Goat's Head Soup. Angie is the hit single off this. Heartbreaker was a single in America, which was, I think it was a reasonable size hit. Starts off with a really sleazy, dirty Dancing with Mr. D, which I love. Silver Train reminds me of All Down the Line, but it's better. All Down the Line was on Exile. Coming Down Again is a nice Keith ballad. Winter sounds like Van Morrison, was a great song. And then Can You Hear the Music is the Stones at their trippy best. I love it. And then finishing off with a rather rude Star Star with its Chuck Berry riff, and Jagger's vocals are fantastic, and I do really like that cover, even though he does look like a woman on it. God, he does look like a woman on it. And then Keith at the back. So that's my number 1, Goat's Head Soup, my favourite Stones album from 1973. Okay, so that's it for the Rolling Stones, all 23. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure some of them you will disagree with, especially Undercover and Some Girls, and possibly the first 2 albums. But as I say, for pure enjoyment, that's the way I put them. I don't look at critical acclaim or anything like that there, because they're my albums and I like to enjoy the order I feel fit. So anyway, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed that, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you wish. Okay, so thanks again, all the best now, bye bye.